What is up, guys? It's your boy, Big Buffs Cacus, and today we've got some brand spanking new Destiny 2 news, courtesy of the Bungie weekly update that has just gone live, revealing official information. And so, let's get started. Now, first things first, what is going on in-game this week? Well, the big thing is that with the weekly reset, Bungie introduced the Master Difficulty Root of Nightmares raid, and the reception was very middling. Like, this is the first master raid with the new difficulty system where it forces you to be under power level. In previous ones, you could actually level up enough to be at parity with the enemies, so a lot of people thought, well, this is going to be a lot more difficult. But at the same time, there's actually surges and overpowered weapons within that activity, which can significantly reduce the difficulty level. There's also a big debate over the validity of the master difficulty rewards. It's a big thing. I did a video on my thoughts. Check it out. It's linked up above. But guys, speaking of difficulty and going to the brand new information within the TWAB, Bungie is actually going to make the game a little bit less difficult. So they say, responding to community feedback, overall since Lightfall's launch, difficulty within certain activities on Legend and Master felt a bit much for some people. So here's what they're doing. They reduced the enemy HP scaler in all non-raid and dungeon Legend and Master activities by 10%. Additionally, they reduced the co-op enemy HP scaler in Legendary Avalon, so the exotic Vexcalibur mission, by 33% in a full fire team. So that means if you go into, well, the best example is like a Legend Lost Sector, enemies should be 10% easier to kill. Like, they have 10% less health. And then specifically, if you're still struggling on Legend of that exotic mission, by all means, this is the time now to go in there with a full fire team and get that done. In addition, they also made some changes to commendations. So they reduced Hawthorne's weekly challenge commendations target from 20 all the way down to 5. They removed the Guardian rank objectives that require players to give commendations from ranks 7, 8, and 9, and they further reduced commendation score requirements for Guardians ranks 7 to 9. So, like, it was 460 at rank 7, now it's all the way down to like 100, and this is coming on the heels of them already reducing the numbers in a previous patch. So what an absolute 180. Like, if you look at how this commendation system was designed from the Lightfall launch and how much Bungie must have thought people would be commending each other to how far down they've gone with these requirements, it's actually kind of insane. And I wonder what was going on at Bungie Studio that they thought that having such incredibly inflated requirements at the start would be a good idea and would be something that players really enjoyed. Perhaps they need to work on getting some real world feedback from players more often, because I know a lot of you guys watching would have probably told Bungie yourselves, yeah, having to get commended 3,000 times is not a good idea. So, moving on from there, guys, some very exciting information. Bungie did reveal some of the buffs coming in the mid-season update. And a big and very exciting section of this update has to do with improving primary weapon damage within PvE, because right now, it's really all about SMGs, particularly 900 RPM SMGs absolutely shred, and other primaries, don't really. So Bungie says, in Heroic and Legend content, you should be more likely to one-shot red bar enemies depending on your weapon type. And even in GMs, Grandmasters, we have shaved how many shots it takes and the time it takes to kill for the below weapons against red and orange bar enemies. Wow, okay, so here's what they're doing. First of all, they've increased the damage of the following weapon types against red and orange bar enemies in PvE. So for auto rifles, they're going to increase the damage by 25%. That's actually pretty. There's already some solid PvE auto rifles, but this could put them not only in parity, but honestly even ahead of the SMGs. Now, for pulse rifles, hand cannons, and sidearms, that damage is increasing by 20%. So certainly a 20% damage increase for hand cannons. I mean, those, it's all about the one-shot kill. If you can now, even with, maybe a little bit of a damage increase from something like Rampage, start to one-shot red bars in higher level content, whew, those are back on the menu in a big way as well. Now moving on from there, scout rifles, they're going to get a 10% damage increase. And this is definitely less, but with a scout rifle, you can be way far back in complete safety, and especially in stuff like Grandmasters, scout rifle usage is actually pretty high, so this is actually a big deal. And for SMGs and bows, nothing. Essentially, Bungie is saying that they use those as benchmarks, so they're trying to bring the rest of the primaries up to SMG and bow level instead of nerfing SMGs and bows, which is fantastic. That is exactly the philosophy I want to see. But guys, moving on from there, we have some changes to weapon archetypes. So for submachine guns, specifically, with the Aikilos SMG, they've removed some tuning in the custom scope, causing this weapon to have significantly less recoil than intended. Alright. And they also say they have a nerf targeting aggressive frame submachine guns going live in Season 21. Moving on from there, for fusion rifles, so Bungie says that when they balanced fusions, they essentially pre-nerfed rapid-fire frames just in preparation that they would be very good, but that didn't really happen, so here's what's going on. They've increased the burst damage of rapid-fire fusions by 15. So the damage per burst goes from 245 to 260. Damage per bolt goes from 27.2 to 28.9. And the damage in PvE is unchanged. Moving on from there, for trace rifles, they say they're at a bit of a precarious spot in the Crucible. In the right hands, they can kill very fast, but they're still not seeing a ton of play. So they've increased the base damage by 4%, so the base damage goes from 12 to 12.5. They've reduced the precision hit multiplier from 1.4x to 1.35x, and then say the crit damage goes from 16.8 to 16.9, I guess combined with the damage increase, and they've increased the effectiveness of stability at reducing flinch by 10% at the 100 stats. So some very minor changes, but might be worth checking out in the Crucible. Moving on from there, for sniper rifle. So rapid fire snipers have struggled to find a place in both PvE and PvP. So here's what they're doing. They've reduced the recoil by 50%, and they've increased the total ammunition of magazine plus reserves by 30%. In my honest opinion, sniper rifles have always struggled after one of the weirdest buffs and nerfs we've ever seen. Bungie buffed all snipers by 20% back with Shadowkeep, and then designed a raid with all long-range bosses, Garden of Salvation, so sniper rifle usage skyrocketed. And then they said too many people were using snipers, and they nerfed them by 20%. Not 15%, they didn't keep a single percent of the buff, they completely nerfed them by the same amount they buffed them, and they've been in this weird gray zone ever since, where they sometimes see play, but not a lot compared to other weapons. I really wish they would just buff the damage by like 5-10%, that's all they need, but this increasing the reserves overall in a long damage phase can definitely matter. So by all means, take a look at your rapid fire frame PvE god rolls. Heck, such as the, I think, Prettiest Revenge or whatever the sniper is from the Vault of Glass with rewind rounds and high impact reserves. Like that thing could be popping off now with 30% more ammo. And then guys, moving on from there, the last category that they're showing is exotic weapons. So the final warning, it can no longer mark targets through Titan barricades. Then with the Teraba, it's kind of getting a lot of play within the Crucible. Now, they've reduced the amount of Ravenous Beast energy generated when taking damage from 3% all the way down to 1%, and they've reduced the zoom from 16 down to 15. So Teraba nerf, definitely more aligned around PvP. But moving on with the Revision 0. The 4th times the charm working when Revision 0 went into Hunter's Trace is a fun and intended interaction, but it caused some unfortunate issues. Activating it too early while the perk was up caused the weapon to overflow its limited mag size and all that stuff. So here's what's happening. 4th times the charm will now reset when entering Hunter's Trace. This will prevent the issue of firing a single shot while in Hunter's Trace and being forcibly returned to the pulse rifle mode. Then the PvE damage of Hunter's Trace rounds have been increased by 25%, and the PvE damage of the Haka Heavy Burst rounds have been increased by 75%. Like that's actually insane. So definitely worth trying out there. And then moving on from there, Bungie says at the Season 21 launch, which I think is May 22nd, there's going to be a sweeping rework of hip-fire reticles to better display useful information to players. Then the aggressive frame SMG nerf is finally coming. A 10% PvE buff to sniper rifle down. All right, well, sorry. Everything I just said came true, I guess. I didn't see it, so there you go. Awesome. Then buffs and adjustments to more than a dozen exotic weapons, including the Graviton Lance and Salvation's Grip. Now, in the future, so this is beyond Season 21, we are going to be taking a look at how Zoom interacts with damage falloff and the base damage falloff ranges of all weapons in general. Zoom and perks like Rangefinder that manipulate Zoom have become a requirement on several weapon types, either to compete in the sandbox or allow weapons to exceed its intended engagement ranges. This has led us to begin to consolidate Zoom values on certain weapon archetypes, which removes an important lever that we can use to modify weapon feel, given the effect Zoom has on field of view, recoil direction, and aim assist falloff. We'll be investigating decoupling damage falloff from Zoom. This would be paired alongside a refresh of the base damage falloff values to compensate. So essentially, the more Zoom you have, the more actual range you basically have, right? And so Bungie is talking about just changing that. So you have actual, just literal zoom. Your weapon zooms down further. You can see further distances. Enemies are bigger in your scope, but that won't actually affect your range. And that is a very, very big change, because right now, like if you're really hardcore about especially PvP, getting the right scope that has the most zoom on stuff like SMGs is a huge deal, because again, it literally relates to your damage fall off. So that's that could be a really big change. Moving on from there, guys, there was a massive wallpaper dump, so head down by clicking the link in the description to the TWAB if you want to grab some of these wallpapers, and that is pretty much it for the need to know information. And so, guys, that is it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.